Welcome everybody to Cafe Dylan Drishti. This is my way of getting back to interviewing people. I used to interview artists, designers, and writers, and all sorts of creative people for a newspaper back in the day. And I really miss interviewing people, and I think I'm gonna get back into it. Why Cafe Dylan Drishti? It's basically a bunch of conversations, like having coffee with our guests and just having the kind of conversations that I think create a space where, even if it's about visual things, I think the medium of a podcast is good, where you listen and then you try to imagine what the person is talking about. It will be interesting that way. And Drishti, what do you mean by Drishti? Why did I pick that? That was the name that my late mentor at the SOFA School of Fashion and the Arts helped me come up with, because he gave us an assignment and he said you have to have an alter ego. You don't necessarily have to use your own name. So for actors, it's a stage name. For writers, it's a pseudonym. And for designers, you could have a different name totally for your brand. Drishti is a Hindi word for the vision of love and good wishes that one soul has for another. The language of the soul is the language of the eyes. So that's what Drishti means. And I kind of thought that's the kind of name I want to use for all my projects, specifically my fashion projects. And so therefore we have this podcast project called Cafe Dylan Drishti.
Welcome to Cafe Dylan Drishti, episode 4. This is a very special episode for Women's Month. And because of the pandemic, of course, and and safety protocols, we cannot have any guests present. And we feel that Zoom interviews are a bit too dry and distanced. So we're going to have a special interview with the founder and the actual host of this podcast, Cafe Dylan Drishti. It's Women's Month, so we need to talk about a lot of issues. Of course, people are talking about women empowerment, women in different fields of service, women's contribution historically throughout the history of human civilization. But there are, of course, certain topics and subject matter that are rarely, if ever, brought up to the public eye or ear. And of course, one of these topics, which has gained a lot of momentum and a lot of press or media attention these last 5 years or so, or 4 years or so, is of course the topic of sexual harassment. So today we'll be talking about things that are rarely talked about in women's shows, especially mainstream women's shows. So
I don't think they ever talk about it on radio. I'm not sure. Maybe in American radio, but not here. Or maybe it's AM, they talk about it once in a while, but only based on the news, not really in depth.
I think I would like to probably start off if you could share that story you told me regarding the man in the grocery. You were 4 years old, I think.
I was sitting in the grocery cart. This is like South Supermarket, Magallanes. I don't know if it still exists. Magallanes South Supermarket. Yun. I was sitting in the grocery cart, where you put your child in the grocery, where your legs are dangling out there. And then my mom was picking up an item or looking at the items in the shelf. And when you're a kid, that seems like a long stretch of time. And then I noticed this man, was looking at me or my mom. I don't know if he was looking at both of us or me, just me. And being 4 years old, I blurted out to my mom, "Why is that man looking at me?" And he was very smooth. He smiled. Then he said, "Because you're pretty," or "Because you're cute," something like that. He said that. And now that I think about it, now that I'm older, I don't know if that was a pedophile or whatever. But when I looked at my mom's face and her reaction, she smiled. So I thought maybe he's hitting on my mom. It could have been he's hitting on my mom. I don't know. But he was addressing me, and then he said I was cute, and I was 4 years old. And of course, I had no idea. I mean, you're not self-aware, right? At that age. So you're like, oh, okay. But so I'll never know if the guy was being nice and complimenting me, or he was complimenting my mother. But at that time, you don't get that feeling of creepiness yet. You don't know that yet. So that's four. That's the earliest memory of a guy noticing you and you noticing him, noticing you. But wala pa yung harassment dun. That's just my earliest memory of something that could lead to something if you're not careful.
What exactly made, I mean, I won't say uncomfortable, but what, when he was looking at you, what was your feeling?
I was four and I was with my mother and I was in a public place, I suppose. So I didn't feel uncomfortable. You will be made uncomfortable later, yeah, when you're a bit older, but not at four. You don't know yet. Eh. You have no idea.
So I guess we should move now to the second story. I guess this is the earliest memory of any kind of instance of not feeling comfortable with regards to sexual harassment. This is the one you've told me often. And of course, this is the story of the miniskirt.
The mini skirt when I was 10. But going back, I forgot to tell you, it's like men feel entitled to that stare. Women look away. Men feel entitled to that stare. They feel they're entitled. They have the right to stare. That's the basic difference between men and women. They feel they have the right to stare all they want and that it's okay. Well, most men.
Well, I guess women, I think, do it more, a bit more discreetly.
That's why. That's why it's called it's not a stare when they do it. A stare is like it's like you don't care. It's blatant. You don't care if the person sees you staring. That's why they feel entitled. It's the gaze, the male gaze, yada yada. You know, can explain the male gaze later. But the for the women, we're always looking away. We're taught to look away. We are the ones looked at. We must look away and be modest. Or at least here in the Philippines, you're taught to just be modest. You don't meet someone stare head on, diba? Because if you do, the more they like it, diba? I mean, I'm talking about strangers, right, on the street and whatever. Like for example, when we went to get our passports, there was a lot of guys there at the DFA, right? And then there was a messenger type guy who was staring at me in the line. Everybody else wasn't. He was the type that was. So he was staring at me. We were all in that line. And, I'm a bit older now, so I stared back because I was getting mad. Because, I mean, come on, we were busy doing what we had to do. And I don't think that deterred him. In fact, it makes them, like, I don't know, happier that you actually challenged them or something. I don't know. And maybe it made his day because he's bored at the DFA. I don't know. Remember that we went to get our passports, and then one of the guys was in line. I did tell you about that, right?
You didn't. You should tell me next time that happens.
I think I did, but it was just a minor staring thing. But he was there. That's what there was a degree of discomfort, right? Because you're always caught off guard because you're in line, you're busy lining up, you're getting your passports, whatever. Everyone's doing the same. Their mind is on that. He was the only one whose mind was, oh, look at her. You know what I mean? So, of course, that sticks out like a sore thumb to me because everybody else I'm sensitive to everybody's energy. So it sticks out like a sore thumb that, his mind is not on his job as the messenger getting somebody's passport. His mind is on, oh, check out that girl. It gets rare because as you get older, they know not to screw with you, not to F with you, but it happens more often. We'll discuss it later. It happens more often when you're a student. The younger you are, high school, college, first job. It's not just that you're older or you're less attractive, actually. It's not even that. It's a lot of women still look attractive when they're older. It's more like they know that you have some sort of power or resources, or obviously you're married to someone, so they can't do anything. They know that there's somebody there, things like that. So it's different when you're just a high school student. They think you're powerless. It's all about power, diba? So if they assume you are powerless, that you have no one to turn to, the more it's going to happen to you. If you're from an elite family and you always have which I have seen, some girls will never leave the house without their yaya, even if they're full grown women. They still have a yaya and a driver and a bodyguard or whatever. So they're never going to experience that, you know, S- certain things that other commuting students or young women experience. And if you're from an elite family and your family name rings a bell, especially in this country, there's no way they're going to touch you. They know that you've got a whole bunch of resources behind you. You prey on the powerless. So if they assume, they think that you're powerless. For example, if you're young and you really need a job and they know that you're supporting your family, hala, you're going to be a victim. Nako, if you're the breadwinner and you're the eldest girl, and then they find they assess, predators will assess where you are on the scale of powerlessness, I think. They're very good at that, right? How badly does she need the job? How badly does she need the grade? Whatever, diba? Predators will assess where you are on that scale. How they can manipulate you, diba?
Now, right now, we're talking about the second story, which is the 10-year-old
When I was 10, yeah.
miniskirt.
The mini skirt story. Yeah, it's the first time kasi I inherited a mini skirt from my older sister who was 6 years older than me. So this is the first time I was going to wear something of hers that I really liked. And I remember the skirt. I remember the design. It was like a mini skirt na parang denim, but nice dark denim. And it had purple stripes weaved into the denim. I don't know how that worked. And it was really unique. And I liked the skirt so much. I was so excited to wear it because she gave it to me. Either she gave it to me or she lent it to me. So for me, it was a treasure. So I was so excited, 10 years old, wore this skirt. My mom took me to Makati. We got out of the car. I was wearing the skirt, super excited, so happy, fashion, little Aquarius uh, fashion plate, right? You're always excited to wear something new. And then we get out of the quad car park, and then we walk down the parking lot, yada yada, going to the mall, whatever. And I'm with my mother, okay? A lot of this happened while I'm with my mother. That is the funny. Now I'm just realizing a lot of these early incidents when I'm a child happened. My mother was just in the other room, or my mother is with me. And yet this happened. Can you imagine? This happens even if your parent is around. They don't care. All right? That's how walang hiya some people are. So, uh, we walk down the parking lot and we walk towards the store, and then I hear grown men yelling at somebody. And I remember looking and I'm like, who are they yelling at? And why? So they're yelling certain things and they're a little bit obscene, I think. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was a long time ago, but I remember I was like, it finally hit me. Oh, they're yelling at me and it's obscene or whatever. And I'm 10, okay? 10 years old. Because then I realize I make the connection in my 10-year-old mind. Because you don't think about these things when you're 10, right? I make the connection in my mind. It's because I wore this skirt. But it's not that short. It's just a mini skirt that's cute and it looks cute. It looked really nice on me. Apparently, they thought so too, but they say it in an obscene way. So, and I'm 10 years old. That's the clincher. They don't care that I'm 10 years old. They say whatever they think is on their mind and they yell it at me across the parking lot. And I'm with my mother. Okay? I'm with my mom. The first time you realize it's because of what you wore, what you did, what you were so excited to wear that day for yourself. That's the first day of the rest of your life where every time you go out as a woman, as a female, you will start planning what you have to wear logistically. Am I going to commute? Am I taking a cab? Am I what am I if I wear this, I have to do this. There's all these things that goes through a woman's head. If she's commuting especially, not if she's like chauffeured all the time. I can't find the exact words to illustrate how weird that felt at 10 years old for the first time making that connection. It's like, wow, it's such a loss of innocence. It's like the first of many, but it's like, Wow. And you know, as a child, they're not supposed to do that to you because you're 10. Yell obscene things at a 10-year-old and she's with her mother. That's really strange. I find that really weird. At the first cat call, I was 10. And I remember it because how could you forget such an experience? Like, you're so innocent at that time. And you're like, well, I was. Maybe other kids are not now at 10, but I was. Like, for example, if someone showed me porn, I didn't realize what it was. That's how innocent I was. Like, I didn't think those were real body parts. You know what I mean? I thought they were plastic or something. So I was so innocent. Like, I really didn't know why they were yelling, who they were yelling at. And then I had to realize, oh, it's because of the skirt. And that's such a downer because I was so happy to have inherited the skirt as an item of fashion, right? I was so happy. I looked nice in it. I was so happy. I wasn't trying to seduce anyone. I didn't even know what the word seduce at 10 years old. I didn't even know what that was. I was just happy because it was a cool skirt, you know? And then it's such a downer that is how it is looked at and viewed. And I realized, oh my God, I can't wear this skirt. At least not here. I have to wear it only with certain people around. Then you make the connection. There will be certain times when you can't just wear what you want to wear. Imagine, and you can't just walk where you want to walk. For some, I don't know what age that happens to them, but mine was 10 years old, and it really didn't feel good. That's the sad reality of the life of women. Add to that, if you have your period or not, does your boss hit on you or not, whatever, all these things. There's so many things going on in the mind when you open your closet in the morning. I want to be creative and I want to wear this and that, but am I commuting? Will I be safe if I wear that? Da, 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 da. Depending on the level of the degree of how much harassment you already had before going to school or at that point, like that, how much harassment you've had will affect how long you stand there in front of the closet deciding what you're going to wear. For me, it's a lovely creative exercise every morning. Ooh, what am I going to wear? But, if you're commuting, then it changes the whole game. Can't wear this, can't wear that, da da da. If you're going to work, that's a different dynamic. That's a whole different thing again. So, yeah, it's so ingrained in your mind. I don't know if it's just in our society, but yeah, you can't wear certain things, or else you are asking for trouble. And of course, you will be victim blamed. But how I feel about people who do that, they're obsolete. They're not even in my radar. Like, I try not to hang around people like that. These stories I tell you happened a long time ago. It happens more when you're younger, right? But yeah, as you get older, you're gonna forget because you're no longer that student walking in strange areas or whatever. So it seems like a long time ago when you tell the story. And then you see a story like that on the news and you're reminded it's still happening. And it's even worse in some cases, you know. Like, it's more than just harassment, it's a crime already. Like a jogger, the usual, girl thinks she's safe jogging somewhere and she's not.
Well, you mentioned young students. Could you share with our listeners that one experience that really stuck in your head as a young college student?
And I felt empowered after because I did something about it. Yeah. Okay, so I was like 18, I think. I was living at my grandmother's for a semester, which we all did in my family. Like, if you're going to university, you spend one semester living at your Lola's house. And because it's cheaper, you just go home on the weekend or when you can, right? So you don't have to like keep going back and forth. Um, so every morning I had to go past a restaurant next to my grandmother's house, and there was a security guard. Well, my class every morning was what, 9 to 12 or something. So I'd have to leave the house at 8:30, because that was like just a 30-minute. Yeah, it wasn't so bad, the traffic back then. The traffic wasn't bad back then. So Every morning, walk past the security guard, past the restaurant, and every morning without fail, it's like nasisira yung umaga ko. You know, you're fresh from the showers, you're going to school, and every morning without fail, this guard just says something to you, which is, not good morning. You know what I mean? He'll say something. Keep forgetting I forget what it was, but I was a student. So he thought I wouldn't do anything about it. I would just walk by, ignore, and he has the power, right, to make you feel uncomfortable. So this happened all throughout the semester. Finally, maybe it was the middle of the semester or towards the end. So I was done with school, so I had time to think about it. And I go, this guy, I'm going to do something about this guy if he does it one more time. Because I wait for the fifth, sixth, seventh time before I do something about whatever's bothering me. So I go, today is the day. So I went back. I go, if I'm going, I go home and he's still there and he does it again. Well, he's in for it. So that day I was prepared. I planned it. When he did it again, I went straight past him, looked him in the eye. He was shocked because he wasn't expecting me to go into the doorway where he was standing. He always sees me walk past him, and that's his power. I walk past and I try to ignore him, and he knows I'm uncomfortable, right? This time it was so weird because I walked right past him and looked at his face. I was like, okay, you're dead now because I am going to tell on you. I'm going to report you. I walked past the doorway, went into the restaurant, ordered an iced tea, and asked for the manager. Actually, his face dropped, the security guard, when I walked past him because he wasn't expecting me to go in. He never expected I'd be a client, imagine, just because I was a student. The manager comes in concerned. She's a woman, thank God. And then she asks me what the problem is. And I tell her for the last month or two, how long is a semester, right? I have been walking past to go to school, go home, and your guard always, what we call it now, catcalled. I didn't know what the term was before. Catcalls me. And it really bothers me because it's every morning, every time I pass the walk to go to get the jeep to go to school. And so she apologized. She understood because she's a woman. It's a good thing the manager of the restaurant was a woman, and she said she was going to do something about it. I felt my power. I felt like I was taking back my power the moment I walked past him and I saw his face drop because he realized I was going inside the restaurant. And then I felt my power growing and I felt more and more empowered as I spoke to the man. I didn't even know. When I was this age, 18 to 22, I discovered things about myself that I didn't even know I could do. I didn't know that instinctively I knew how to interview somebody. I didn't know that I just knew how to approach strangers and when I had to. I was very shy, so I didn't know I could do this. So I didn't know I had it in me to know instinctively what to do, to go in, order, ask for the manager, and start telling on him in a very calm and grown up manner. So I had not thought about it a lot. It just all came out of my mouth. The words just tumbled out of my mouth. I had not rehearsed anything in my head. Lo and behold, after that, when I told on him, when I reported him to his manager, it never happened again. Like, I didn't hear a peep out of him. Either she replaced him or he just shut up because I never heard it again. And it's funny because that building where the restaurant was, the landlady, the owner, the family that owned that building knew my grandmother's family because they'd been neighbors all that time. And I waited so long to report this guy. I didn't realize I had the power to do something about it. Good thing I thought about it, and I needed to. I was so busy with how you're so busy with class, so you're just rushing to class, and you just ignore him, but you get irritated. And then finally, when midterms was over, I was more relaxed and had more time to think about it. I guess I was like, okay, I have time now to think about it and do something about it. So That's when I did something about it, when there was like a downtime, I guess. Okay, not today, no more. This is gonna end, right? With others, they would have done it probably on the second or third time, but I waited like quite a long time before I reported him. My threshold is higher for abuse, I guess, considering my background. Yeah. I just felt the important thing is that you learn to take back your power because it's about power. That's what I said the last time. It's always about power. When they assume you are powerless, they assume this girl really needs the job, the waitress. So they molest her. The customers grab her ass because they think she can't quit. They think this waitress is so desperate to keep this stupid job that she can't quit. And when they realize she quits, Allah, that's when they're dead. You know. When they assume you're powerless, when they assume you have no resources, when they assume you can't get any other job or you have no other way, you have no other alternative. It's like it never occurred to him. That's what I was going to do, which is actually quite stupid of some guys, actually. Never assume that a kid doesn't know anybody or, you know, won't do something. Now, the girls now are very lucky that they have social media and they can Facebook Live. I noticed the sexual harassment cases that were reported on social media by these girls. As soon as they happened on the buses, they would take pictures of the guys. I think there's a decrease now that there's these girls reporting them on social media immediately and shaming them. You're naming and shaming them. There were so many cases like that earlier, right? So the girls are empowered now because they have phones. We didn't have that. So we would just wait till we got to class and told our stories to our classmates to vent before the teacher arrives. Guess what happened to me on the Jeep? Guess what happened to me on the way here? If you commute, it's really going to happen and you're a student, you know. It doesn't matter what you wear, shorts, jeans. Buti nga, I'm always wearing jeans because my friend was wearing shorts. Then they touch your bare skin. But I was wearing jeans and they still touched it. It's like they find a way to. I remember that time I was wearing jeans. I went to the post office in QC, was it? And I was on East Avenue and I wore jeans and I got back on the Jeep. And then the guy, was it a vendor? I was sitting in the front. He was near the front of the Jeep and he put his finger on the jeans so that when the Jeep moved, it went up my leg. So imagine if you were wearing shorts, right? That's what happened to my friend. She was wearing shorts. So it happened a lot on the Jeeps for the students. And you're just so in a hurry to get to class and you're just like, you don't do anything then and there. You're just in shock. And then you tell your classmates. You never really get to say or do the right thing at the right moment. Not like now. The kids seem to be either braver, smarter, or just have more presence of mind. It took a woman on some television show to remind me. I thought, wow, it's that simple. This is your personal space. She drew in chalk. This is your personal space right here. If anyone gets in your personal space, you raise hell. It's that simple. I never even thought of it that way. And I realized my personal space was violated so many times when I was younger, like countless times. That's why you don't, when your personal space has been violated so many times, you don't know how to say no to people. You don't know that you have the right to say no to people. People take advantage of you. If you've been molested when you were young and your personal space is violated over and over again, and it's funny how predators seem to smell that. They can smell that has happened to you before, so it keeps happening. Predators can sniff you out in a group whose space has been violated before, who has a higher threshold for abuse or something like that, you know? And I don't know if other kinds of predators, like certain bad guys you go out with, bad boys you go out with, can sense that also, that you don't know how to say no or you feel pressured to do what you don't want to do. It's not exactly It's not rape, but it's like you feel pressured to give in because your space was violated or your no was taken away long ago. It's you're confused already. Not like if you already knew that you could say no and you were sure about it. There's a big difference on how if you grew up that way or if you grew up the way I did, where you had to learn. It took you decades to realize. It took that woman's simple drawing of a circle around herself and saying, "This is your space. Nobody gets in that space." It's that simple. Whether it's the office, the street, or what, the Jeep, it's that simple. And you realize it's so simple. Nobody's supposed to get in that space. So if you think of it that way, it's been violated many times. And of course, when you're young, it happens more because you are more vulnerable and you don't know what's happening and you don't know how to stop it or fight back or you're afraid or whatever. But there are some girls who are more sure of themselves and then they fight immediately and they post it on social media now. They're so lucky. And they know that they're in the right. Women have more self doubt. It's estrogen, right? Testosterone makes you sure of yourself, even if you're wrong. I can't put it in the right words that I read before. It's like the more that your boundaries have been crossed, your no was disregarded, or your personal space was invaded so many times that as you grow up, you don't know anymore where the boundaries are. You have to set new boundaries, or you have to go to therapy to realize you have to start setting boundaries and that you have the right to protect yourself from unwanted attention and unwanted touching or whatever. And even when you're like with someone, you have the right to say no. Nobody's entitled to your space. Nobody is entitled to your body. Nobody is entitled to anything of yours. No one. So the problem with being your space being invaded when you're so young is you don't realize that you have that right to say no anytime, any place, anywhere. And or if you're seeing someone like before, I always felt like there's this pressure to give in when maybe other girls don't feel that. You know, if you're dating someone and you always feel there's like a pressure. They call it I don't know if that was like I call it the Marilyn Monroe effect because I believe as if she was adopted, she was like she went through the system, what they call the system, the orphanage system. So she might have been molested, right? Most likely. And so she self-eroticizes. The only way she knows how to get attention is to self-eroticize. Makes sense, couch psychology. But I read that somewhere as usual. So, in the same manner, if you never knew where the boundaries were, that you had the right to say no anytime, you had to learn that. Buti na lang if you dated nice guys. But what if I had dated not nice guys? It would have been worse, right? But still, you felt this like strange, where's the boundary? I don't know if where I can say no, you feel more pressured to give in, or if someone's pressuring you or whatever, you don't know. No, you don't realize that they're not going to stop dating you just because you said no. So your boundary, your no, you don't realize that that is honored. Normally, normally it is, and you have to learn to take that back. The problem is later on when you realize all these things, you become more and more what militant about it. Yeah. So nasosobrahan naman, di ba? First, the 4-year-old thing was just visual. The 10-year-old was audio, guys yelling. 13-year-old was actual contact. A relative on my mother's side, who was a dentist, never say yes to free lunch or freebies or anything because there's always a trade-off they feel entitled to. My mother was in the next room. Okay, he's dead already, but his descendants are still around, right? So my aunts might pass this over to them. I was 13 and my mom was in the other room. This is how that happened. You know, after you clean your teeth and then he said you can lick the front of your teeth to see how clean it is. And we were all, he won my trust because he was like letting me help him around, and I really was becoming fond of him. We were becoming like buddies. He wins your trust. And then, yeah, he was bending over me and telling me how if if your teeth are really clean, you could run your tongue over it. See, like this. He does it to himself. And then he said, you do it to yourself. So I did it to myself, like that. And then he said, now let me do it to you. And then he bent over and then stuck his tongue in my mouth. And I was like, that. I recoiled. But he had already stuck his tongue, like he was going to run his tongue over my teeth. I was 13, and this guy was like, what? He was like 50 plus, something like that, 40 plus, 50 plus. I think he was in his 50s. And he was notorious for harassing or molesting his dental assistants, I heard. So when he went to my grandmother's 80th birthday, I ignored him completely. But my body, the body remembers. The body does not lie. The moment he stepped into my grandmother's house for her 80th birthday, my body just tensed up. I have a photo from that night. I'm with my cousin, my sister, and then me, and we're smiling. He hadn't arrived yet, obviously, because I looked relaxed. And I remember him arriving, and I turned my back. My whole body just completely turned. My back to him, didn't want to see him. I felt repulsed, and I didn't go near him the whole time. I don't think he remembered anymore. I was already 18 maybe, or no, I was like 17 probably. Many years later. But I did tell my aunt and my mom and my brother about him. Nothing was done. There is something you have to see that there's a consequence for someone doing that to you. There was no consequence. I told my mother, no consequence. Actually, that's the second time already I told her something happened to me, no consequence. Always because the person happens to be somewhat related to you or whatever, so there's no consequence. That person is dead now. And when he died and I heard the news, of course, what did I do? Gloat, right? What was funny was, I think there was like something, if he got a cancer of the throat or the tongue, it was ironic, right? Did I tell you that? There was an ironic detail, or do you call that ironic?
I think it's called more poetic
Yeah,
justice.
he got cancer somewhere in that area. And I go, well, because he keeps trying to kiss girls that he shouldn't. You know, it was really gross. Imagine you're 13 and this middle aged uncle of yours tries to lick your teeth. Ew. So I didn't kiss anyone. I had my first kiss. It was wonderful, but I didn't have I didn't try to let anyone kiss me for years. But at least when I finally started kissing or I had my first kiss, it was wonderful. But it made up, I was like, it has to be good because it has to make up for that awful, awful first incident of that. That wasn't even a kiss, right? That was molestation. So, buti na lang, my karma was, my first experience with someone was great, and all the other experiences later were okay. I mean, it's like maybe, that saying, I'm somewhere in my youth or childhood, I must have done something good. At least all the men I chose to date were sensible and nice, and can't say much. You can't say really anything bad about them. It made up for all the horrible things and horrific things that happened to me before that, like before my young adult years or before adolescence, you know. So it really colors your if you're a young person, a child, 13, 10, it really colors how you see things and you feel, ugh, I don't want to have anything to do with that. You're like, your body remembers it. So you're like, immediately, "Ugh, I see him. Ugh." And then you recoil. One boy asked me, why do you recoil? even if you know you like each other, right? So it's like it does, it has a long-term effect.
Obviously, I guess you've made sure that all your dentists afterwards have been
That's why
either a gay or a female.
yeah, I feel better when my dentist is gay or female. If you noticed, I always try to make sure the dentist is gay or female. I do not like, that's why I never go to straight male dentists. I could never go to a male, straight, heterosexual dentist. Yeah. Has to be a gay dentist or a female. Yeah, someone with absolutely no interest in me. I don't mind going to male doctors. It's just the dentist thing reminds you, right? Being in the dentist chair actually gives me anxiety sometimes. And it's not because of the pain of the dental work. It's really being in the dentist chair, you remember. Your body remembers everything, right? How everything feels.
Based on the little details you mentioned about him gaining your trust, I guess that you could probably conclude that
That's
was
what
a kind
predators
of,
do.
I know, we could conclude that maybe there was a kind of grooming then.
Yes, a little bit because he didn't try it on my older sister because she was 6 years older, and
Wouldn't have
so
raised hell.
she already had, she was already in college, so it would be different, and she's a different personality. He knew they can tell who they can't touch and who they can. Of course, he went for the younger, more innocent one, who was like, I was becoming fond of him and starting to trust him. He earned my trust. He gained my trust, and then that completely broke it. Like when he did that, I didn't want to talk to him. I didn't want to. I was becoming so fond of him. I was like, oh, he was going to become my favorite uncle. And then it happened. And I was like, ew, ew. So it completely changed how I saw him, right? Didn't talk to him anymore after that. Didn't want to see him. Of course, we never went back anymore for the freebies. That's why he offers freebies because he wants to do that. So everything is suspect. Never accept a free ride from a certain guy. Never. There's always a risk, right?
What would you say to the girls who have sadly experienced the similar things to what you experienced, where the you told this to your family and but nothing was
But
done?
that's common. It's always a male relative. It's always someone close to the family or whatever. It's always someone who happens to be around. It's never some. It's people think it's always a stranger. No, it's always someone who's either in your family uh, or you're in your relative sphere, your sphere of relatives. It's always someone close to your family or has access to you, because how else would they have access to you as a young girl, right?
Course, where
It's
sadly,
common. It's that's common.
uh,
And you tell you
your
they
family
always
doesn't have your back.
it's common when I've heard many stories or I've read many stories where the woman, when she was young, told her mother or told someone, and they did not produce consequences, produce punishments, produce justice or anything. And it's sad when it's like the celebration, for example, where you saw how the mother did not, she stood by her man in the wrong sense, because it's too horrible probably for her to accept. Then she would have to turn against her husband. So she'd have to choose husband or children, right? And I guess these women are in such great denial, they don't want to turn against their husbands, you know?
But in this case, it was a cousin of your mother,
Yes,
a first
he's now
cousin.
dead. I don't know if he's the first cousin. I'm not sure. Probably second. I'm not sure. Well, they would know because he's a dentist and he's dead, so there's not very many of them, right? So yeah, and I told my aunt, and she was mad, and if she had known about it, she would have done something about it. She said, but I guess they forgot about it because they invited him to my grandmother's birthday. So I was mad. As usual, you feel great. They forgot. I told the story, and they forgot, and they invited him. I mean, has everyone forgotten what happened to me? I told the story. So that means it was disregarded, see? So that happens a lot, apparently. That's common. That's why we're making this podcast, because I'm telling all the stories that I can remember. So anyway, that was my other story, 13 years old. We did 10 years old, we did 4, we did 13 years old. We skipped 8 years old because it's too horrific, and I'm not that is reserved for a therapist's couch.
Well, yeah, we could discuss the next is workplace harassment, of which there are two particular incidents regarding workplace harassment. One was in the company you were freelancing for about a month. We won't mention the name of the company, but
1 month project.
it's
It
a
was
one
a
month
one
project.
month contract. It was a one event deal. Yeah, I was working for one project, and I never really felt I fit in there. And the guy, the IT guy, well, I still know the name of the employer, but the IT guy was an employee. When he saw me, he blurted out in front of everyone in that office, "Oh, may empleyada pala kayong maganda," or something like that. Parang, he made me feel uncomfortable and he insulted everybody else. Right? He said something like that. Like he was saying that they're all not attractive by saying that. He said it in that way. Oh, may empleyada pala kayong maganda dito. Parang ganon. Huh? You just insulted everyone as well, right? While calling attention to me, and then you're basically saying that they're all not attractive. I mean, that's not a good thing to say in the office either way. So, and then I was wearing a sleeveless, one of my favorite sleeveless blue gray tops, which was not skanky at all because it was high neck and it was, but there was no sleeve here. And then I had my big thigh pants. And I was sitting at the computer writing, and he comes near me and touches my forearm. Is this the forearm? Slowly. It's not the what where they touch you, it's how slowly they do it. I was just in shock or surprise, and it's usually in the middle of something. In the other incident, there was another event. We were out of town. The As soon as my boss left the room, "Oh, Yvette, sit here," and then touch my jeans, and then they do it slowly.
That was a different company, which shall still go unnamed, but that was a
Yeah,
different
but
company.
they know it because as soon as my boss left me in charge of, "Okay, I'm going ahead. Your boss will go ahead because that's his prerogative. That's his perk. He was going to leave, go ahead." Actually, if I had told him, he would never do that again. He would probably never leave you behind again. After that, when I told later on, and I just remembered because I was sitting next to the graphic designer and pointing out where to put the captions, and I saw the guy's face in the picture, and I remembered, so I ended up blurting it out to my coworker, and he's a guy, and he was like, "What?" And then the European account head or something, account management head, was like, "Okay, from now on, no girl from this team goes without a guy from the team to see the client without someone else with them." It depends on who you were assigned to, because there's some guys who work for the client who are like that, and some who are really cool, and you can get in the car with, and they're very cool, nothing will happen, and they're just normal. But there was just one particular guy who liked to try to, you know, try to be fresh with the girls, but he's trying, but it's not going to get anywhere. And then he tried to get me to ride in the car with him to go back to Manila. That's a 2 hour car ride. I was like, "No, I'm riding with the female counterpart, the female client." So I said, "No, I'm riding with her." I made sure I rode with her. And I was supposed to ride with her anyway, because she's really the one in charge. No way. 2 hours with you in a car? No way. And he assumes that I'm not related to anyone with a gun.
These are two examples of workplace incidents. So with the that particular incident, there was something done at least from your company's end. But with the other one, what happened with the IT guy who actually wasn't touching your forearm? That was your upper arm.
And slowly, oh, like that. Why, I forgot what he said while it happened. Ugh, IT guy. And I was like, that was the head of their IT, imagine. Ew. And then I did report him to the HR. She understood, oh, sexual harassment, because I had demonstrated how he did it. But I was so angry that she was also wondering about me. But anyway, you know, it was just not a comfortable place to work anymore, ever. I didn't like the project anyway. I was so like when I did went to the event, I didn't even dress up for their event. That's how, and it was a hotel event, and they looked at me like, "Why isn't she dressed?" Because nawalan ka ng gana. It's like, oh, what a terrible place to work. I don't even want to dress up. Just get this over with. And then I never saw those people again. I did not gel with them at all. They were not my tribe. Because when I stay in a workplace long, it's because I gel with the people. And most of those places, the only places I felt really safe was, for example, in Sofa, where everyone is gay and everyone is female, and the only guy there is the janitor. It's like predominant. Or in certain work projects like fashion, you're safe because they're all gay. Or where certain clients who are cool and they're very professional. They're like the favorite clients because nothing horrible ever happens to you while you're on the road and you feel safe. The worst that will happen is just they fish, like if you have a boyfriend or whatever, or the person you interviewed, it was cute, it wasn't creepy. The parents wanted to set you up with to meet their son because they found you endearing. After the interview, they wanted you to meet their son. I found it sweet. That's not harassment at all. There are times you team up with other women who are also freelancers. Like when we're up in the province, we're invited out for a drink before my flight, the night before my flight. I had teamed up with two other women, also because there were supposedly ghosts in that company guest house. It was creepy. So we teamed up to sleep together in the same room instead of separate rooms. So strength in numbers. Women who don't know each other will team up when they're traveling for work. This happened to me in Batanes. It happened to me in the province. I end up making friends with other women. One is the freelance accountant that they send over. I was the writer. Then the other one, they're from different companies. So we all team up and have lunch together, use the pool together, use the same room, so that you're a group. You become, you team up and then you go out together. And, and in Batanes, we also invited one girl to join us and we became a group of three. So when you're traveling for work out in the province, out in the field, it's automatic for women to befriend each other and team up because it's strength in numbers, right? That was the smart thing that we did. Like it's just what older women know how to do. You team up. Because if the guys invite you to a drink and it's just one of you going with them, that's a stupid thing to do. You go with the other three girls too. So there's all three of you going with them, you know? And then they brought you back at midnight to the compound. So that's good. I mean, I felt safer because I had teamed up with these two women I'd never met in my life. One was an accountant, and the other I forgot what she was doing, but she was also like a consultant. And we became instant friends because we were talking at lunch about the ghosts that were reportedly. So we're all saying, we should just sleep in one room, and they gave us a room with three beds. We didn't want to sleep in our separate rooms because of the ghosts. And then we all slept in one room. And then that way you avoid harassment by the other guys anyway. If there was ever, nobody did anything anyway. It was one of the better clients. But yeah, you're gonna get hit on, and hitting on is fine. Fishing, if you have a boyfriend, that's fine. But harassment's a totally different thing. And getting into your space, that's a completely different thing. It makes you feel creepy. It makes you feel uncomfortable. The definition of workplace harassment is anything that makes you feel uncomfortable and you can't do your work properly because you feel uncomfortable. That's a hostile work environment. And women are more productive when they're happy and they feel safe. If they feel like someone's going to make them, feel uncomfortable all the time, they're not going to do their best work. So it's detrimental for the employer.
What happened when you told the HR about the IT guy?
I don't know what she did, but I did tell her and I knew she understood. But she was also like, I think she had to weigh things because I was only there for a month and he's a permanent guy. And I did warn her. I said, "You're going to have interns coming in. Good luck. Young, fresh interns. Good luck." I warned her. I was the only good looking thing he'd said he'd seen for days or weeks or months. Aside from insulting the, like you said, you made me realize he had insulted the rest of the office by saying that. He was already like, you know, it's like a guy loudly commenting on Facebook before he, you know, it's like the comment is the one made in public. The private message is the actual thing.
But a lot of Pinoy guys would have said what he said.
But it insults. You're saying then that means you're telling the secretary she's ugly,
Well,
and
you're getting by on a joke, but of course, yes, it is insulting.
you made me realize it was insulting the
Insulting
rest of the
everybody in the
office.
office.
May empleyada pala kayong maganda. Parang, ha? Ininsulto mo rin sila lahat. Diba, I realize.
Well, I guess you mentioned you'd always keep mentioning about growing up on a military base.
None of the soldiers ever. That's the funny part. The only harassment I got verbal was from civilians in a truck passing by through the road, the main road. They yelled, "Maganda." I was 21 years old. I was wearing a sweater and jogging pants, long sleeves and jogging pants, okay? 21, 22, 23, something like that. In my early 20s. And I guess I looked like a Japanese doll, they said. I had my bangs and my rosy cheeks. So, of course, I was crossing the street, and it was civilians who yelled at me from the truck. From the truck, said, "Maganda ka, mag-ingat ka." Parang it's your fault pa, you know. Civilians, no soldiers ever. They were too busy. No soldiers ever, ever. I think, I don't know. I was living on a base all my life, most of my life. Never was a soldier. It was always civilians passing through, yelling at you from wherever, a truck or whatever, and you're crossing the street or something. I don't think it happened to other girls because they were in cars or whatever. I was the one who liked to walk by myself. That's the thing. I was so independent. I like to walk by myself. So it's going to happen to you more because you like to walk by yourself and enjoy the walk, but you can't because sometimes those things happen. But I do admire there are certain what do you call it, vloggers, or what are they called, influencers, who are, I'm not going to name them because that's promoting them, but they do have this advocacy of women traveling alone and showing that they can do it. But they do say there are still bad things that happen to them, but they try to highlight the good things that happen to them.
Well, just to touch on it briefly, perhaps regarding always that very that misconception, that ignorant thing. It's always something you wear. It has nothing to do with what you wear, right?
No, all those times I was harassed when I was younger in my 20s or 18 to 23, I was in jeans. Okay, I remember because I remember where the fingers go. The jeans, the denim pants, those are long pants. When I was yelled at in the base, it was long sleeves. I was wearing long sleeve, the kind of sweater you wear with your jogging pants. I even remember the color. It was white and there was blue print, came from the States or whatever, and then the blue jogging pants with the white stripe, long sleeves and long jogging pants and sneakers. Always like long sleeves and jogging pants, or long sleeves, the other time long sleeves folded up with jeans. You're all covered up. So it's not what you wear. I wasn't wearing shorts or a skirt. Of course I wouldn't wear that because I'm commuting. When you commute all the way, it takes so long to commute to university, right? So it's like you're wearing jeans. You always think, like I said in the earlier part, in the morning, what am I gonna wear? How will I be safe? So you wear jeans. Harder to remove, harder to get to you. Skirt, easy access, right? Shorts, easy access. Never wore a dress commuting. Wait. Only if there was, yeah, a car, or you knew that it would be an easier day for you at school or something, not a difficult day. So girls who are always with a driver or with a car of their own or drive themselves were subject to less harassment. The funny thing is, guys in college had more access to, they would drive themselves and so they were in cars. It's the girls who would commute a lot, I noticed in college, and they're the ones who get, there's more commuting women, I think, in this country than men. I was like riding on the bus, and I think I was 16 or 17. And I think, you know how they crowd you on purpose? Never sit beside a guy. I learned that the hard way. It's like you should always sit beside a woman. Because when you sit beside a man, they try to crowd you on purpose, and then, mm, not, you don't know sometimes if it's on purpose or not, deliberate or not, you know? And then, good thing, I always hated getting out of the bus seat because you always think they have access to just grab your butt because it's so crowded, you know? But yeah, you should always sit next to a woman. Why do I feel so crowded? He has all this space. You know, it's like the seat is this big, but they're still gonna crowd you. You know, they do things like that.
That's deliberate then, most
There's a
likely.
lot of things that you're like, is that deliberate or not? But as you get older, you're more conscious of what is deliberate and what isn't. You know, who's getting into your space. Of course, if I was, since I was a teenager, then I guess it was deliberate. I was a very cute teenager. So I guess, yeah, I had, but I commuted a lot because I liked my independence. So that was the downside of my independence. I loved walking around by myself. I loved commuting by myself. I loved traveling by myself, but that's the downside because I drew attention. I wasn't drawing attention to myself. I always dressed modestly, but problem is fair skin attracts attention in this country. I notice the taller, more morena ones who look athletic and like Amazona will not, you know, I'm sure volleyball players do not get harassed so much because they look strong and tall and, you know, they're taller than most guys. I notice if you're fair skinned and not that tall, you know, you draw more attention. I remember taking a bus to Baguio by myself one time. Was I by myself? Yeah. There was a trip I took by myself, Baguio, La Union. I just wanted to, and it was fun. And I remember the guys on the bus to Baguio were watching me when we went to the restroom, and they knew I was alone, but I was had this mataray face, so that they would leave me alone, you know. But they were checking me out. I had this tiger sense already, and then I would be just, you know, aloof or something. But I knew they were wondering probably why I was alone. And then, yeah, airplane coming back from Thailand, American guy snickering in the back. But I was with a friend. It doesn't happen anymore when you're walking around with your husband. You forget. I try walking around by myself, and it doesn't happen so much because it's like quarantine. So I think wearing the mask and kind of helps protect you also.
But I think it's also important to talk about this because there's a gap between the women who are already like grown older into their marriages or grown older into their singlehood, and they've forgotten those incidents, and then they don't support the young girls who have to. Yeah, so I think it's important to talk about it. It's good that you remember it, even though you don't want to remember because of the trauma, but
I
it's good to talk
remember it
about
when
it.
the young students talk about it.
I know. So, but it's good to reach out also because a lot of the young girls don't get sometimes get the support from the older generation because they've kind of forgotten.
So once you have a partner, a boyfriend or a husband, it happens less because you're already like, you know, there's always someone with you if you're walking or you're always in a car or whatever. You know, there's always someone with you going home. So it happens less because guys see you're with somebody. That's the psychology. It'll still happen if you're with other women, you know. They'll harass the entire group. Happens to college girls, I think. We would get approached in clubs even when we were like 30, as long as if we were a group of girls sometimes.
That's probably more hitting on rather than trying to pick you up rather than harassment.
But I'm saying that even if you're a group of women, that doesn't necessarily mean people won't approach you. or try something or whatever. It's more like if you're with guys, then they will not approach you. I want to experiment nga, like I have to walk around because I only walk around by myself in our neighborhood. I haven't done that in like Malate in a long time or any other place I used to, I haven't I would not be used to it anymore. Walking around by myself because I'm always with you. I used to walk around by myself a lot and that's when it happened a lot, right? Especially when I was younger. College was the most times I think in commuting. In terms of commuting, yeah, college, of course. And then, well, when I go home late at night, I'm with someone, with a friend. And then workplace happened, yeah, a lot. I think if I didn't even, I think it would happen anywhere, in any workplace, anywhere in the world. You know, doesn't matter. It would happen anywhere. And you feel you can't enjoy your beauty. You feel you can't. You feel you can't enjoy your beauty because you're it's like made to feel like uncomfortable or you feel you want to hide your beauty. I remember your mom after, well, this was after another incident, but it wasn't sexual harassment, right? She kept saying, "Why do you hide your beauty? Why do you hide your face?" It's like sad because that's one of the sad things if you it's like what was the story of the talents? God gave you talents and if you don't use them, you wasted your life. If God gave you beauty and it's sad that you hide it, that's the same thing, right? If you have it, you should be able to enjoy your beauty safely, to celebrate yourself, celebrate your beauty, and enjoy it being a girl, as Heart Evangelista said. Enjoy being a girl. It's fun. Safely. Like the miniskirt story. I wanted to enjoy my miniskirt. Enjoy being a girl. It's fun to be a girl, and then you don't get to enjoy it because of men catcalling you. Parang you want to wear it for yourself because you enjoy it. You know, maybe to show off to your friends now that there's Instagram. But point is, it's really for yourself. The reason you want to wear that first and foremost, and then secondary is other people. So yeah, you can't get to enjoy being a woman or a girl because if you have to always have safety concerns, how can you enjoy yourself? You should be able to walk around safely and enjoy yourself. If you grow up with sexual harassment as the norm, or you're always expecting it, and you get used to your no not being honored or respected, then you spend the rest of your adult life learning to honor your own no and naming your boundaries. The downside is sometimes you go overboard and you don't know who is being offensive or who is crossing your boundary because everyone seems to be like an enemy sometimes. But, it's better to be a little bit suspicious and a little bit more careful or cautious and to call things out immediately and to call for help or always buddy up, have a system because I hate to break it to parents of teenage girls, but the world is not a safe place for women. And it's useless to just talk to women about this because as the other woman said in the BBC report, women don't need reminding to be safe and to be careful. We grow up thinking about our safety and being careful all the time, 24/7. That's always in the forefront of our minds, to be careful. We don't need reminding. The education is on the other side with the men. Because who is responsible for it? Who makes the workplace uncomfortable? Who, when you give a little bit of power, uses it and abuses it, right? So the education is not on our end because we already know we're supposed to be careful where we go and how we do things. Women grow up thinking that all the time. It's tiring actually to have to always think about that wherever you go in the world. So hopefully everyone dreams of having their daughter one day travel safely by herself. No matter how smart your daughter is, no matter how careful your daughter is, and how brave she is, there's always going to be somebody, a predator, somebody out there. That's the way I tend to think on that side. On that side, I err on the side of extreme caution already, because especially with the news now, the pandemic has heightened sexual harassment in terms of checkpoints, in terms of military power, abuse of power. So the pandemic has increased harassment and also cases of domestic abuse, because you're locked in with your abuser and then there's no other alternative. For many, there's no alternative. I'm part of many pages, and it's really sad what you can read. Hopefully, not all of them are true, but most of them are true. So it's a long way to go. I can't live in live every day thinking that the world is okay and that it's safe, because I knew from a young age that it's not. And you can't go through the world thinking that